All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Notary Governance Call morning 8 a.m. session for April 5th, 2022. We have a large group and a full agenda. So thanks for joining us live. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be two clips. This is the first of two. Covered in today's call, we are going to omit the metrics in interest of time, come back if we have time for them, and we're going to go right into introductions and tracking participation for all of you that are on this call. Then we are going to take some time to go over the election results. We're going to talk about next steps for all of you new notaries who are joining the program and what to expect coming out of that. And we have quite a few open issues and discussions. So these are flags that community members have raised in the repo that they would like to discuss. So we've allocated 5 minutes for each of those to kind of go over in detail. If this is your first time on the call and you haven't worked with us already, Deep, Galen, and myself will be your primary points of contact to help steward the program, answer any questions that you have, and just generally serve as any kind of water boys to make sure that this is working effectively and helping you out. So you'll see us on the call, you'll see us on Slack. Here's our names, and we kind of cross-pollinate, but for the most part, you could rely on us for these big three categories going forward. Now, if this is your first time on the call, you've never joined before, we invite you to maybe go into chat, say, hi, my name's Kevin, I'm from this organization in this region. Just kind of helps us to find out who you are and kind of just say hi if you have any issues. Feel free to engage that chat. We'll spend a lot of time. If you're a notary and you're joining this call, thank you very much. We have a way to kind of track this as part of your SLA participation going forward. So you'll notice now that we have a link, and I'm just going to paste it right here in the chat running. And this link will take you to a survey inside of Airtable. Really quick, you just put in today's date, what session you've attended, and your name. And this way we can say, okay, hey, Galen came from Filecoin Foundation. He was on the line, and this way we could start pulling this for your participation points on the notary. So this is relatively new. It's exactly new. This is the first time we're kicking it off. So in the process of doing this, if you find any bugs or friction or pain points, or you have any feedback on ways to make this better, please let us know. But if you are a notary and you're looking to kind of get that SLA participation, you will need to fill out this survey. The survey will be the only way that we could track if you've seen this. And we'll be following up at a later date for watching this recording, how to track that in an effective way. So we'll get back to you on the next steps if you want to get credit for watching this recording after the fact. I'll kind of pause since this is new before we go on and see if anyone has any questions about participation for notaries, just to log if they're on the call.
One clarifying question, Kire. I see that this session attended lets you pick one session. Is the expectation that when you attend, if you attend both, you just fill it up again for the second one?
So right now, yeah, if you were to come to the second one, you would just fill out two. That's so rare, but if that edge case ever did happen, you would just fill out this survey again and say, hey, I came to the second one. And on the back end, I'll have a DB to see that you came to both. Thanks for that, dude. Great. So we're skipping over metrics in the interest of time, and we're going to spend a lot of our focus on the notary elections. So let's talk about the selection process, where you can go to see the names. Some of the next steps, we'll flag some ledger concerns for you, who this might be your first time coming on, and then talk about a pulse survey to kind of get all the information to help you onboard effectively into this program. So first step, here's what's happening next. If you were selected for a notary, you would have received a ping to the GitHub repository where you filed your application. It'll say essentially like, congratulations, looking forward to having you in the program, and then asking for some clarifying information, essentially verifying your ledger address, your geolocation, committing to the time requirements for the program. So you would have seen that come through in a link to Airtable. If you have any problems or you filed an application and you have not seen anything back, please DM Deep, Galen, myself, and I will take point to make sure that you're getting the information you needed. But if you filed an application, you would have received an update by the 1st telling you congratulations, welcome to the program, and these are where we're going to be coming for. Now, when you fill that out, that will give us all of your contact communication, and notaries will be added to a private notary Slack channel that we have inside of the Slack. Inside that Slack channel, we kind of discuss issues, any kind of blockers that we may see, and kind of coordination. So this is only for existing notaries. So we'll be adding you based off the information that we collect. Now, anybody who filed an application that was not selected as a notary this time, be happy to discuss scoring questions you may have, tips and feedback for how to raise your score for next time's election. And we would have left you a comment along with your score sheet, so you can see exactly what points you received and what categories, and any questions you may have on how to raise that or get additional points in the future. Again, I could serve as your POC. Feel free to reach out on Slack, and we could discuss and go forward on that. For anybody else who would be curious to see all of the notaries that were selected, that's GitHub issue 486. So there's a pull request in. We'll be merging it after discussions that are taking place on this call for the data cap allocation. But if you're curious who else from your region got selected, you can go into GitHub and look at 486, and we'll link that there. And lastly, what we'll be doing is we have quite a few new notaries. Welcome. So what I'm going to be doing next week is putting together a training session. It will be a mix of live Zoom sessions, recordings that you could watch pre-canned, as well as step-by-step documentation. And the goal is to kind of handle those like, hey, new questions. How do I communicate? How do I approve data cap? How do I communicate on these issues? Who do I go to for problems? So if you're just joining this program as a notary and you have 1,000,001 questions, love it, stand by, and we'll be happy to get you training. And to know what to get you, let's talk about some of the flags that are coming. But before we get to that, Galen, did you have any points that you wanted to add on this slide?
No, you kind of touched on it. There's an open pull request, which will sort of update an existing table to show active notaries, their contact information at a high level in the region. We're also working on some additional, we'll be posting some additional contact information as people put in that form. The responses to that form are not going to all be publicly viewable. That's been a question that's come up a few times with some of the disclosures for notaries. So that form is required. We do need that information. But what we're mostly going to be posting will be sort of the region, the organization, the link to the application. So similar to what was in there from before. So you can go check out that pull request. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please add them directly to the pull request. And then once that merges, you can always, flag and raise issues if we miss something or something's off there. Yep.
Well said. Well said. So we had this flagged. I want to make sure that everyone is tracking this very early. So this was raised by one of the newer notaries, and the issue was that there's shipping delays for some parts of the world due to just, wow, what a world we live in these days, right? So if you have not ordered your ledger yet, please do so. And if you experience any type of shipping delays, inside of that Slack notary channel that we'll be adding you to is a running thread of workarounds, other systems, other inputs on it. So again, if you are a newer notary and you've not ordered your ledger, we've linked it to the nano that we recommend, but obviously get one that fits your needs. This is a big flag because obviously you can't approve data cap if you don't have that ledger, and this could serve as a serious block if this goes on for some period of time. So again, take a look. We'll be adding to the Slack if you have questions. This is only for notaries that are new, that don't have an existing ledger connected to support the Fil. And as we have on this large notary base, effectively, what we're looking to do is make this a community project. And what that means is collecting feedback from you on what you'd like to see as far as the project goals, reducing friction. We've had a lot of really good input from some of the vocal notaries over the last few weeks. What we're trying to do is keep that momentum going and figure out what's important to you. And so that way we could focus on making this project scale and be effective as possible. So all the new notaries, you might have seen a DM come from me this morning. If you haven't received one, you'll be getting it in the next couple of hours. And it's only for notaries. And this is essentially asking you, hey, how is your access looking? What would you like to see in an onboarding guide? Do you need it? Would somebody else need it? What do you wish somebody told you? Where do you see friction? What hurts? What's painful? What can we fix in this process to make it more better? And then feedback for what phases So we talk about our OKRs. I think in our next session, we'll go into detail for an update for you on what we're working on. But this survey is designed to be 4 minutes, super quick, and the results will actually go into meaningful change that we'll see in the program. So check your Slack. If you're not on Slack, check your email. And this is going to all notaries that were selected. Now, we have quite a bit on the open issues. So I think I will take the first one, and then I'll turn it over to Deep for the next one. And then we also have a presentation from Seal. So kicking off, let me tell you guys about June 8th. So on June 8th, what's going to happen is there is going to be almost like a mini South by Southwest. Filecoin is hosting a Fil Austin. And if you want to take this link, I'll post it right here in chat. Sorry. And what this Fil Austin is going to be is just a gathering in downtown Austin for storage providers, for notaries, for clients, for interested community participants, to talk about the network, to talk about next steps, to kind of collaborate and cross-pollinate. What we've decided to do is the day before that Fil Austin, on the 7th, host a Fil Plus Day. So for some of you old timers that were around last year, you remember that Deep hosted a Fil Plus Day on YouTube. It was fabulous, lots of information, lots of content generated as far as how-to, about how the program would be managed, and answering lots of questions. The goal is something very similar on the 7th, and to see what else we could do for the program. So it's going to be less content, still be content created, but there'll be panels, there'll be discussions, and there'll be some back and forth. I know that not all of us live in the States. You might have trouble or blocks on coming in. So of course, we will be filming portions of this to make it available. But we're curious with advance notice if anybody on the call, any notaries or community would be interested in participating. So thank you, Galen, for posting those links right there in chat. The Fil Austin link is all the details on the location, the hotel, the details. And that Airtable link that Galen posted in the chat is just a quick check-in. Would you be keen to come? Would you like to watch it as we go forward? So with that, I'll turn it over to Galen to provide some more context on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to also jump in and add, for those of you that are interested or don't know, part of the reason the Filecoin Foundation is hosting this event at this time is it also backs up to another event, Consensus conference in Austin. So if you are able, you could really kind of hit Fil Plus Day, Fil Austin, and Consensus. So all in a long 3-day, 4-day weekend. Be a great time in Texas.
Deep's going to promise us steak sandwiches. I will take you up on that, buddy. So
well, I'm vegetarian, so I'll probably get you tacos, but not steak sandwiches. I think Galen will be there to sort that out. But yeah, honestly,
I will make sure there is smoked meat.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to having this as an option. And so, Galen, thanks for shepherding. It's Galen and Carrie, both of you. Thank you so much for shepherding this along. You're requesting everybody in the audience, like it doesn't matter if you're a notary or anybody else, like please note your interest and if you'd be willing to come out there in person or engage in some other way.
Thanks for that. Sweet. Well, the next issue we have is issue 489. Deep, do you want me to turn this over to you and take the floor?
I would love to give this straight to the Seal Storage folks. I actually see a couple of them on the call directly. I know Alex and Greg are both here. I have a thing I want to add to it after, but I would rather they kick off.
Yeah. Seal, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Is it possible to share my screen? Yeah, cool. Thank you. All right. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, yeah, so thank you very much for the time this morning and welcome community, and we appreciate being here and excited to grow the network. So we're talking about this proposal. Is this clearly visible? Just want to make sure.
Yeah, we can see your repo. Looking good.
Okay, cool. And so what I have, I'm not going to read through that. What I have is kind of a high level presentation here that just hits some of the bullets. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go through some of the bullets here. And yeah, and then open for questions. And we have 5 minutes, is that correct? So I'll kind of whip through it quickly.
Yeah, plus or minus 5 minutes is the goal.
Okay. All right, so we're very excited to bring what looks like to be 50 petabytes to the network. It's a 10 petabyte data set. We're looking to do 5 full copies. This is all in that proposal, by the way. And our customer who wishes to remain confidential is a world-class scientific organization. And the data sets are really exciting outputs of scientific experiments. And what this is like a test for this customer to kind of see what Filecoin is all about. And because they have an exabyte storage problem to solve, and they see Filecoin as a very exciting place to potentially move some of that, and it's going to be exabytes per year in the near future. And with cryptocurrency and everything, I know it's not on our side of the table, but if you just read headlines, it's a scary space, and so the customer feels that they want to see success in this shorter project. Before they announce it, even within their own organization. This is a smaller group, and then to the world, and we certainly have that on the timeline. So this will not be private forever, just in the near term. I think that's very important. As far as the data set, like I mentioned, it's outputs of scientific experiments. These are ones that produce enormous amounts of data. The data itself is not very useful. Actually, if you looked at it, you couldn't do much with it. You need all of the customers' post-processing to really make anything useful of it. But they wanted to remain private because by looking at the data, you can tell who the customer is. And so we will be encrypting the data. And just note that the scope for the project is to take this data and produce public data sets that are useful to the public. So that is part of the project. As far as KYC, and I'll move quickly through this, I think an important thing is to kind of point at myself. So I am not a blockchain person. I'm recently in this industry. I'm a degreed mechanical engineer, and so I've been 20 years before this building scientific instruments for NASA's and DOEs and this and people like that. It's like when you make one of something, it's a very exciting type of engineering. And the last 5 years before Seal, I was at Berkeley Lab, which is a highly collaborative place. And I was in the intellectual property office for a good amount of that time. And when you work in the intellectual property office, you meet everybody. And so I met everybody, and I'm leveraging those relationships right now to find these large data sets. So that's an important component to how Seal is able to come across these things. Let's see, I mentioned the confidential customer. We are committed to transparency. We understand that this causes some challenges. We have executed NDAs with some notaries and storage providers and pulled the curtain back, and so they know all the customer information, including Filecoin Foundation. And then we also understand that we're asking for, some to, bypass or kind of get approval to go around some guidelines to get this customer on board because of the impact that it can have on the community. I won't go through all this. We're kind of getting low on time here. But this is all in this governance proposal that was submitted over the weekend. So all these details are there, including the specific people and data storage plan that we plan to execute. And I'll just point out real quick that in this last bullet on the left-hand side, so Seal would like to receive 20 petabytes of data cap for 2 full replicas. And the reason why is because we need to keep 1 full hot copy for our customer, which is going to be a huge expense for our technical team. And so this is very important for project milestones. And then I'll also mention that DLTX is also going to kind of take a more leadership role amongst the storage providers and help us satisfy customer milestones as well. And then on the right-hand side is a list of notaries that we've talked to, and folks are on board with bringing this data to the network. So I'll stop there. We're just at about 5.5 minutes or 4.5 minutes, and happy to open the floor for questions or any comments.
I'd like to add something real quick to that.
Thank you.
I think in general, the Filecoin Plus program is going through many transitions. This has been a very active period for us over the last 6 months. And it's probably going to continue to be breakneck pace for the next several months. Big changes include just order of magnitude increase in operations in Filecoin Plus and verified deal making on the network, bringing a lot more clients on board, bringing a lot more notaries on board. Filecoin Plus has overtaken deal making in the network in general. Everything that's happening right now tends to be verified deals. And so for me, one thing that I've been going back to look at recently has been what the original sort of operating principles, guidelines, and stuff were in the original FIP, and sort of the motivation that was presented at the start of the program, where the idea was basically that we have a way in which we do social trust to create transparency, accountability, and identification of clients that safely can use this as a storage technology, and that this program makes the network more productive. And for that, I think for us, that means a couple of things. That means like shepherding demand and shepherding clients onto the network. It means improving like the overall onboarding experience for data and ensuring that large scale data can be onboarded. And then third, and most importantly, is building a community of people that can serve as a layer of fiduciaries or people that have the network's best interests at their heart in ensuring that the work that's being done, that's being supported, is worthy of the support of DataCap. And as you think about DataCap itself becoming more and more commoditized, it's going to be applied more and more across every kind of use case. And so for me, this represents the first of many challenges as we take on like a slight shift in sort of mentality in approaching like what is deemed like generic Filecoin Plus worthy data versus not, right? Like we spent our last year being a lot more focused on open data because that was easier, that was lower risk, people could check against that. And we still find ourselves in a position where that just serves such a small amount of the demand that's coming in. And so as we continue to make headway on like the fraud monitoring and auditing side of things with a lot of new tools coming, as well as people just getting more comfortable talking about this stuff in public, sharing disputes, sharing openly on GitHub and Slack on governance calls, things that they've identified that they think are bad or not good, and figuring out how to deal with them. I think this is like us also pushing our envelope in terms of identifying like what we need to do to our processes to support like every kind of good client. Like Filecoin Plus is not just about a specific type of client. It was scoped to being really good for a type of client because that's what we felt we could safely support. But as we sort of grow in scope and support more types of clients and the Filecoin network itself becomes more useful for a larger set of people in the world, Filecoin Plus needs to adapt to that. And so for me, like one, like, to the SEAL team, like thanks for pushing this stuff. Like the work that you're doing is obviously very good for the network. That's a lot of data that you're bringing on. It's very promising. Of course, you're doing it in a way that's a little bit more difficult to navigate because there's a little bit less transparency around it. But I think you've earned that trust with at least a subset of notaries who, as a reminder, were elected through a distributed decentralized election process and have been notaries for several other clients and have served the network very well over the last year that they've been elected. And then two, for the Filecoin Plus community, I think this is, again, a good opportunity to reset some perspectives, expectations, learn a little bit more about what's needed for this program to set the overall network up for success in the future and unlock many more possibilities as we move forward. And so my personal approach is, obviously this is a difficult case. It might be an edge case, it may not, and so like over-indexing on one particular path might be not a good move yet, where we like have to adjust overall operating guidelines and principles because of this, but it is probably a very good data point that we need to like work through to figure out like where we think the rails need to be built or what we consider to be safe and not safe. And so I'd like to urge us to have the conversation with that spirit. To see you folks, if I said anything unfair, please call me out. If not, I'd love to hand the floor over to other people to discuss. Okay, just pulling up the issue itself, I see two main dissenting things. The first one is that the data itself is not like publicly accessible, and the client is not like open to the world. And so if Filecoin Plus was previously targeted towards just open data sets, then why should we be okay with this? I think my personal opinion is that obviously we've supported private and anonymous clients before through the direct notary application process. It just so happens at this time we're doing it at a much larger scale, and the LDN process just makes a lot more sense. I don't actually think that that's out of scope. And I think that this is just part of like adjusting what we view to be the majority use case or adjusting what we view to be the generic use case. But there's also a second point at the bottom here from Tom, which is a lot of enterprises and organizations don't necessarily need to use Filecoin Plus. They could just go ahead and use it and store their data without DataCap. To the SEAL folks, I personally still have a vested interest in wanting to have this go through as verified deals because I think, like I said, it's important for the Filecoin Plus program itself to evolve and grow and support these things. Like over time, DataCap itself will get commoditized. And so this will be more about, hey, we got some form of KYC, we got some form of like social trust that like, yes, this is a good project. We know who it is. We understand a little bit more about the use cases of Filecoin. It's a different kind of value effectively that we'd still be adding back into the network as a community. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on either of those, would love to hear your response to them.
Alex, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I think, in terms of what you mentioned, Deep, we completely agree. in terms of the ability for the network to grow. And I actually think the comment below does a reasonable job of talking about that as well. The vast majority of the data in the world has some form of encryption level to it or some form of ownership level to it. And I think that the natural progression within the Filecoin ecosystem is to start finding ways to be transparent and trustworthy about bringing that data onto the network, because I do think it's one of the best ways for us to grow and advance as a community and start continuing to commercialize Filecoin as an ecosystem, as a chain. I think that's kind of the comment on the first one. The second one was a comment on why would are there there's questions in the Filecoin Slack. I'm happy to answer those as well. I can't necessarily see them, but in terms of the second question that was there, the second question that was there with regards to why this wouldn't go through data cap, I do think this is a type of project that really does encapsulate what the Filecoin Plus program is set up to do, not just from a expanding the network perspective, but the type of data that's going to go on there, which will eventually be available to the public, as Greg was saying. It is really following the ethos of the Filecoin ecosystem. And I also think that a lot of different projects or companies, particularly that aren't in the Web3 space, don't really understand how to navigate the Filecoin ecosystem. They don't understand the notary system, as well as Greg highlighted in the first slide of our presentation there. Some people can be wary or scared of crypto, particularly when they come from slow moving and highly regulated entities. So it can be more difficult for them to participate in Filecoin without going through somebody like a storage provider or somebody kind of walking them through the process that really does help with the Filecoin Plus program there. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions on those two or additional questions, but absolutely happy to address them here.
Good.
All right.
Just looking at Galen's. Yeah, go for it, Gary. Sorry.
I think if anybody has any questions, we've shared the repo, we have the chat. Please feel free to continue this going. I'd like to thank you guys for presenting, Greg, Alex, the whole SEAL team. Very helpful.
Yeah, to just add, I mean, if anybody would like to reach out to us directly with questions or concerns, we're always happy to engage with the community.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. I'm here to talk about the elections. I was just looking through some of the data that Gary and Galen were compiling on the amount of data cap going out to notaries, and I realized that with the amount of notaries getting elected this time, we have a ton of data cap coming in, and it's like insanely more compared to the usual past election cycles. For context, the first time we did notary elections, we had about 2 petabytes of data cap go out, plus or minus 10%. The second time we did elections, we had about 6 petabytes of data cap go out. And this time, if we go with the projections, we're at 94 petabytes. And the primary reason this is happening is just because a lot of notaries are getting really high numbers on being in the ecosystem for a long time, because that thing was represented based on the number of years that you've been part of the ecosystem. And that criteria was also designed at a time where like a majority of the data cap was not going out through the LDN process because the LDN process didn't exist. And so for me, this issue is more about just balancing that down a little bit. Obviously, we can't recommend a change to the rubric at this point because it's past the election point. And I do think there's one big takeaway here, which is we probably need to adjust that criteria, because I think it has a bit of an adverse selection logic where somebody who's been in the community even infrequently for 4 years would be would be rewarded versus somebody who's a very active participant and has only been around for the last 6 months. I'm not sure we necessarily value the first one over the second if they meet all the other criteria. And so we do need to adjust that overall. But in the interim or in the short term for directly influencing this election cycles, I want to propose capping the individual notary allocation to 1 PB. We have several that are getting 10 PB. And the chart, if you pull up the issue, Carrie, the chart, like just that table, it just looks like incredibly imbalanced when you let somebody go get 10 PB. You can see that like 87% of all the data cap, this is the one you scroll past, Carrie, the one on top, 87% of the data cap would have been allocated to like 2 regions, which is extremely high. And then also 95% of all the data cap being used today by clients is still going through LDNs. So the real win here is that we're getting 54 notaries, not that there's like 90 PB available to those notaries. And so from like a trust and safety side of things, while we're still working on auditing and disputes and getting better at handling them, and from like an overall like reputational risk to the program standpoint, if like things go awry at a much larger scale than they have in the past, like we're talking 16x times as opposed to like the usual 2 to 3x multiplier. I think going with the 1 PB ceiling right now is a much safer option. No notary has been blocked on this before. Like nobody's actually run out of 1 PB, so I don't anticipate that to actually be a problem, especially as notary election cycles become more frequent and more consistent with their schedule. And again, ultimately, most people are participating through the LDNs. We have several notaries in the last election cycle that didn't even make a single manual allocation because all of their demand was served through LDNs. And so I think this represents a safer path that still gives us the win as a community, where we bring on 54 total notaries who can participate in LDNs, sign a bunch of data cap, help do due diligence, and are much more active in the program. And just wanted to, results in a much more balanced sort of proportion across different regions. That's it. Gillen, you had a hand that went away. Anything you'd like to add? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to like reiterate to everyone listening, this isn't a change to like how a notary would be able to participate in an LDN. So this doesn't change sort of that top of funnel concept of how much data cap is available and how notaries would participate in LDNs. So for new notaries, I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that the amount that they're requesting is not associated with their LDN behavior.
Here, if you switch back to the slide, there's a table that you can directly compare this against that shows you that it's also the exact same notaries getting elected. This is not changing anything. We are still having the same 54 people get elected and get new data cap. It just adds a cap on how much they can get. Carrie, this slide has, this has the updated table, which is a much slightly more, at least balanced proportion without severely influencing the rubric at this stage, which probably would be unfair, especially given that we've already figured out who the next set of notaries will be, or at least the next set elected to the list of notaries will be. So in summary, we basically end up halving the amount of data cap, which means, 50, and just to note, that just means the people that were going to get 10 PB instead get 1. So it's a difference of about 5 people. The majority of allocations are still made through LDN, so I still expect time to data cap to go down because we'll have more people looking at that stuff. I still expect client demand to be served because 95% of it was served through LDNs anyway. I still expect notaries to be able to give all the data cap they want to directly because not a single notary has run out of 1 PB at this stage. And in fact, many haven't used any data cap at all. And it results in more balanced presence across regions. Of course, along the while, reducing overall risk. And so I feel like this is a pretty easy Band-Aid. It's not a good long-term fix. We should adjust the rubric after this. But at least in the near term, I think it is a safer way for us to go and still does not limit the efficiency or efficacy of the program. So especially curious to hear from any existing or new notaries if this seems like a problem. James has a hand.
Hey, so if the 50 PIB project from Greg needs to be approved by notaries, then this issue would mean we would need 50 notaries to approve that project, correct?
No, because he would go through he and the SEAL team, I should say, are going through the large data set notary flow, James. So that's through LDNs, where that does not actually draw from an individual notary's pool. That data cap gets made basically out of thin air and gets assigned to a multi-sig of all the notaries. And so this has zero implication on the success of any client. Like the only case in which clients come here are typically when they're looking for tens of PB of data cap.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that make sense? Any questions on that, James, or are you generally supportive or not supportive?
That makes sense and supportive of this issue otherwise then.
Cool. In the interest of time, any other sort of final comments? I see two people in chat. Well, I got one in a DM, but I'm going to out them. I got a couple people in chat saying that this makes sense. No, a Firefly question is every notary will receive more than 1 PB. No, it means no notary will receive more than 1 PB. That's it. So we're at this point, we'd be averaging around like 0.8 PB per notary. And we'd still be using the same like path for them. So most notaries are getting 10 PB or 100. Sorry, most notaries are getting 100 PB. Some are getting 10, and then several are getting 1 PB because the average is about 0.8. The way I'm doing that math is 40 PB of data cap is going out, and there's 54 notaries receiving it. So just putting one over the other.
It looks like we got some good feedback on this in chat. Feel free to comment on this issue if you have conviction either way. Deep, Galen, any other points on this before we move on? I'll take that as a good set.
Yeah, for those of you that are here on our support of this, if you can just click the link and give me a thumbs up, at least that'll give me a sense of polling on whether or not like this makes sense. No, watching Kerry do one. He undid it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'll give you one here. Great. Moving on. I wanted to circle back. We started with this slide. This is a slide you've already seen, and it's the participation on this. So I just want to remind everyone on the call, you don't have to be a notary to fill this out. And essentially, I'm going to relink this. So if you want to just get credit for coming to these calls, it could be that you're just a community member now, but in the next cycle, you'd like to apply to become a notary. This would be really good to include on your applications, and we'll have the data to back up. Like, hey, I've been to 15 notary calls over the last couple of months. I know the process. If you're not filling out these participation forms just so we could track it, we won't have any data metrics to verify that. So I just want to kind of stress, thank you to all the notaries that have filled this out. I'm going to repost this Airtable link again in the chat. Gosh, Galen, you're so fast. Amazing. Thank you. Galen posted that in the chat. Just go ahead and put in your information and we'll make sure that we're getting you all set up. So just one more quick plug. All right, with that, we have a couple of community discussion points. These were raised in the GitHub repository. So remember, if you ever want to speak at these events, just let us know. File that in the GitHub and we'll make sure to save time. We've allocated 5 minutes, so I might hold you guys to this 5 minute as we go forward on it. So with that, let's turn it over. Deep, were you speaking to the large data set, or who would that be?
No, that was going to be me. I'm actually going to see if I can get this down to just 2 minutes and then cede my time to the rest of the community. I don't have a slide to go with this yet, but as we start to ratify these 50 notaries, that is going to create a massive tech debt for the large data set process. If you were around last fall and already had an existing large data set open, or if you were here as a notary, you saw some of that pain when we rolled to the new large data set process, which has one multi-sig with all existing 23 notary addresses, and that one multi-sig was intended to go to one client. There is a potential reason, and we're going to work on a proposal and look at some tooling for this, where what we would like to do is create one multi-sig address with all existing notaries and have that one multi-sig notary be the large data set notary and have that one notary address multi-sig go to all approved large data set clients. So there's a couple tech things that would need to happen with that as to how the root key holders would more frequently top up the data cap to that one multi-sig. It also sort of changes how much data cap is on chain at the top of the funnel at any point in time. But I just wanted to start kind of talking about this idea because it's something that we ran into as we started thinking about how are we going to roll something like 100. I think we're at about 100 approved LDNs. It would just be a massive undertaking for the governance team to deprecate and stand up all of those new multi-sigs. So more on that, I think, in the next 2 weeks. Like I said, it would require some tooling improvements and just ways that we track things. But if you have thoughts or concerns on that right away, would love to just address them. So I'm going to just pause for 30 seconds to see. All right, I don't see hands. And since I don't have more documentation with this or a place for you to put those conversations, we'll talk about this in another governance call. I'm going to kick it back. Actually, I'm not going to kick it to Carrie. I think if TG Shopping is here.
We lost Galen right there at the end. He was asking for TG Shopping, who I believe is here. Joe, if you want to take over.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Joe.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna share my screen.
Joe, as you kick off, we've got you 5 minutes. So I'll give you a 1 minute countdown if you get late.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess you can see the screen, right? Okay.
We see it. Let's do it.
All right, good. I'm Joe, the Director of Cost Control of Global Shopping, business unit of Trip.com Group. I'm honored to be here, introducing our business and data storage conditions here. So Trip.com is an online travel service provider headquartered in Shanghai and branches in other 17 cities such as Beijing, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, with more than 25,000 employees around the world. Our journey started in 1999, and now we have more than 400 million global members, and our service covers more than 200 countries and regions. And after 20 years of hard working, we are now so proud to say that we're one of the most famous global leading travel service provider now. Okay, so let me introduce a little bit about Global Shopping Business Unit, which is the department I'm working in. When we travel abroad, it always comes with a topic, which is shopping, right? And our idea is to take out this shopping part under the tourism scenario and make it to a service that benefits to both buying and selling parties. For local boutiques, it's a great way for their branding, especially towards Chinese tourists. And for the travelers, the buyers, they get better tourism shopping experience by having many value-added services. Imagine this. Have you ever had this experience that you travel abroad, but there's too many things on your shopping list and it's very hard for you to carry them back? All this trouble like this can be solved by our service, and the goods will be shipped to you when you are traveling, just like other online shopping experience. And our service covers many places, and we collaborate with more than 7,300 brands, malls, and stores. As you can see from the list, these brands are very popular for Chinese customers, and we are grateful to be supported by all these valuable partners. Okay, let's talk about data, right? So with so many customers, partners, and services, it generates a lot of data, and from different places under different scenarios. But for our department, Global Shopping, now we have more than 4 petabytes of data, and it keeps increasing for around 300 terabytes per month. This data are mainly stored on our local IDC and AWS and Baidu cloud. However, it costs a lot. And so we are seeking for a better way, a safer and lower cost way for our data storage. Our partners mentioned about Filecoin, and after a deep research, we think it's a good idea to give it a try. However, not all of our 4 petabyte of data will be stored in Filecoin network though, due to many reasons. The data we plan to store on Filecoin consists of 3 parts. System log, which is 70%, and source material takes about 23%. And the biggest part is the customer sharing part. It is the information like blogs and travel notes that our guests share on Citrix community. It takes about 60%, the biggest one. And all this data sum up to around 2 petabytes, but since some data contains many like personal information, especially for the system log data, so we need to do data desensitization. And after this, there is about 1.2 petabyte of pure mask data. So we plan to make 5 to 6 copies of this data, and then we will be ready for the Filecoin network. All right, so let's.
You're at the 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning for you.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so I will give you some data samples. The first one is the customer sharing. So I will switch my screen real quick. Okay, so right here, so we can see from this website, it's a travel note that our customers share on our Citrix community. And you can tell it's very detailed, and this author write a lot, everything, and post a lot of pictures, beautiful pictures. And yeah, you can, oh yeah, you can also see he even post a map about Saipan. This travel notes is about his experience in Saipan. So he post a map here to let everybody know where it is. Okay, and also,
Joe, thank you so much for the presentation. What we'll do
thank
is
you.
we'll move over. If anybody has questions for you, if you want to share your contact information in the chat, and we can come back and make sure that we're getting that. Fully invite you to come back to the second session today if you want to present on that. Thanks again.
I see. That's good. Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Thank you,
time.
Joe. Thanks, really appreciate it. Sorry, we're a little strapped for time, but
we have one more presenter if they're on the line. I might mispronounce this. Levy, are you guys here today? Tess, are you the representative from Levy?
Hi, this is Tess.
Wonderful. Would you like to share screen?
Yes. Hold on. It says others are sharing their screen, so I'm not able to share mine.
All right, let me kick Joe off. Joe, can you stop sharing? Oh, good job. All right, Tess, you're all set. The same thing, you'll have 5 minutes. And then for everybody on the call, we'll hang out for any alibis for any questions you have for the team after Tess finishes. So Tess, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to open my file. Hold on. Can you see my screen?
No, we cannot see your screen.
Oh.
Tess, since we only have 2 minutes left for your presentation, may I propose this? Rather than having you speak super fast to try to get all your information, what if we invite you back to the second session and we'll make sure that that's added to the recording. And if you'd like, we can definitely save time for you next week. Would that work?
Okay, sorry.
Hey,
I
yeah,
forgot I forgot
tech
my
things
privacy settings.
happens very quickly.
Okay.
So we have 4 minutes left. I'll turn it open to any kind of community discussions, anything that anybody wants to share or discuss. This would be the time to flag it now. See a hand up, Penny?
Yes, hi, this is Penny from iMOOC. I think I'm ready for a presentation. Can I do this?
Penny, I responded to you in chat. We're stopping the call in 4 minutes. So you'll have to wait until the second session or come back next
Okay.
week. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do it as second session.
Sounds great.
Thanks.
I just want to ask if there's any questions for any of the topics that came up today. Now is a good time. So, the issue that I proposed, any issues on the seal proposal and how they want to proceed, any questions for Joe with his presentation. I'm assuming we'll be seeing some applications from him in the future. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, now's a great time. If not, I also wanted to add that I'm working on drafting another issue on using public retrieval stats as part of like Filecoin Plus. I think I talked about this 2 governance calls ago. And so I'll be putting that up hopefully in the next day or so. It might be there in time for the afternoon discussion. If not, please go check it out when it's up on the repo in the next day or two. I'll post in the Slack channel when it's there. And second thing, I know some of you saw our DGM post. So DGM stands for the Decentralized Grants Marketplace. Pooja was in here a month ago presenting on the Decentralized Grants Marketplace. We used it recently to have a grant posted to work with us on some of the auditing and dispute processes. We received several applications. Thank you so much. Many from people who are in the call. That's really great. Unfortunately, we can only pick one person this time. So we're in the process of just identifying who that person will be, and we'll be in touch hopefully either today or tomorrow with next steps. Awesome. And yeah, if you haven't done it already, please fill out the form that Kira linked in the chat. And Joe, thanks for the great presentation. Is there anywhere people can reach out to you if they have any questions? Do you have any next steps or action items that you want to share from your side? Should we be expecting some support from notaries and client applications, or how are you hoping to proceed after this? I don't know if he's still here. Cool.
Right. I'd like to thank everybody for joining the call. I'd like to congratulate all the new notaries selected in this round. And I'd like to end by a reminder, if you have any questions about the program or anything, as always, feel free to send me a DM on Slack, and I could direct you to the appropriate channels or help you find repos and essentially serve as a guide for wherever you may be looking. For those of you that are coming back to the second session, I'll message you the details to make sure that you're all set. And once again, thanks Seal, thanks Joe for those presentations. Spot on. Thanks everybody. All the best.
Thank you, guys.
All right, well, welcome to the second April 5th Notary Governance meeting. Appreciate you guys being here live. We have a big group. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for sticking around for 2 sessions on there. So we have a very full agenda today. And so as such, we've kind of modified the agenda. So that means that we're going to omit the metrics. We'll post those online. And we're going to take that time to talk about participation and have a way for you guys to log that you're here on this call. We're also going to spend a lot of the time talking about the notary election results, let you know where to go to see all those names that will be joining the notary list, let you know the feedback on how you can work with it. Then we'll be talking about next steps for all the notaries. So if this is your first time joining, you're a brand new notary, we'll walk through how to get that set up. We have a couple open issues with large data set from Seal. If you guys are on the line, thank you for coming back to present. We have some issues with the petabyte allocations. And then we, in community discussion, have a few members that would like to tell you about their application processes. So with that, just a quick intro if you're new to the call. My name is Kevin. Galen and Deep and myself are just kind of your community stewards that oversee the Filecoin Plus program. So if you need anything from us, we're on the GitHub, we're on the emails, we're on the Slacks, and here to back you up as necessary. If this is your first time ever joining the call, it's really nice if you just go into chat and say, hi, my name is Kevin. I'm from North America. Happy to be here. I'm a client, or I'm a programmer, or I'd like to get involved more. Whatever you say, we'll kind of message you and kind of kick off however we can do for help. One of the newnesses that we have on this call that we just started with after this election is a way to kind of track the participation for you notaries that are giving your time to invest in this program. So what we've set up is a way that you could just say you came to these meetings, and this will count towards the time that you're investing in the program every week. And with that, you just kind of log in, provide your basics on the information, and go from there. If you're curious what this link is, Galen just put it into chat. It's an Airtable form. And when you follow it, it will just ask you like, hey, what day are you calling into the call? You're going to mark that you're here for the second session. Or if you came to the first and you're here for both, go ahead and put that. If you're a notary, you can mark that, hey, I'm a notary, I'm attending. Or if you're just a participant and this is your first time on the call, second, third, if you mark that and you do want to apply for a notary later, this would be helpful in your application to say like, hey, I've logged over 4 hours coming to past presentations. This will kind of be the way that you justify that to the community. So again, please take the time, go ahead and log that in. That'll be filed under the SLA for participation. This is the first time we've done that. So if you guys have any questions, I'm going to pause for just a minute and see if there's any tech blocks or any questions for me on this. All right. If anything comes up, feel free to message in Slack or shoot a hand up and we'll go over to it. So to the elections, a lot's been happening behind the scene for the past couple of weeks. Let's talk about it a little bit. So I think we have 52 that are new notaries that are inside the program. To those of you that are just joining, welcome. You would have got a message from me. It's either coming into your box now or you're just seeing it on Slack, just saying congratulations, welcome to the team. In your repository repo, Galen messaged you a link to your actual application with an Airtable form just to acknowledge, yes, you've purchased your ledger. Yes, you're operating in the region that you said you would. Yes, there's any kind of things that we could clear up for you. So if you haven't gone back to your application repo, this would be a great time to do that. And you'll see that application that links you back to Airtable. So here's what's happening next. You're also going to get a welcome email from me. It has a very brief survey in it. The goal of that survey is just to kind of check in, see if you have any questions for us. We're going to start doing some more training programs for you. So this is just, hey, let us know what you need and we'll get it for you. With that, you've been contacted in your GitHub repository. You're going to start to be added to a couple of new Slack channels. So you might see your Slack messages kind of increase a little bit over the next couple of days as we plus you in. And we'll be also asking for input on a scheduling session to go through and kind of talk a little bit about how we're going to get you onboarded, any questions you have. So with that, this is what to expect at a very high level if you're a new notary. I'll pass it over to Galen for any additional thoughts or input on this.
Thanks, K-Ray. As he mentioned, we dropped that form in your application issues. There's a couple disclosures that he talked about, and then some additional information that we're collecting for this round. If you have multiple people on your team with multiple individuals serving as notaries, you can just go ahead and submit multiple form responses. And there were a number of people that already put some of this information in the GitHub issue. I'd really appreciate it if you would take the 3 minutes to just submit the form, and then that way we have it all in one consolidated database. So any questions that come up about that form, let us know. And then I think we had the next kind of conversation topic was around, there's a pull request that's open where you can go see sort of the full list of round 3 notaries. We haven't merged that pull request yet because there are a couple conversation points on this call that we wanted to go over. But just if you wanted to see the regions and who the different people were at a consolidated view, and that's pull request 486. And you can kind of go in and look at it. It's not as pretty if you're not super familiar with navigating GitHub to do this. It's a little bit harder to get to where that table lives, but it is there just if you wanted to look at the total list. So that's all I had. Kevin?
Sweet, thanks for that, Galen. The next slide that we have up, if you are brand new to the notary process, like, hey, watch out, red flag, we've had this kind of brought up. So essentially, there's been a lot of shipping delays for ordering your ledger devices. So if you have any questions, if you've ordered that and you've got it back, or you have any kind of problems, we have a discussion running in one of the private notary channels. Feel free to refer to that. If you have any 2 cents, like you've ordered from some site and it comes faster to your geographic area, please let us know. But just as a quick heads up and flag, we have seen some of this in the greater China area. So be very mindful if you're brand new to the program and you're ordering your ledger for the first time. So we mentioned this survey. I'd like to kind of take a minute and kind of tell you about what you're going to see, because there's going to be a lot more like data collection at this stage as we start to grow the program and it matures. So this survey is going to come through via Slack, and it's only sent to the notaries. And what we're doing right now is we're trying to get a feel around access and onboarding. It's like the first key route to address, and hopefully have a standardization of like how the process is done, how to communicate, and then how to give that feedback back to applicants. We've heard a lot of great input in the past about friction. So like a small example might be applicants DMing notaries directly. Then it gets really hard for the notaries to manage this or keep comms in a very public place. So if we can all start from like one standard unit of measurement, it'll make it a lot easier for us to kind of keep that comms in a way that respects your schedule and lets you be as productive as possible. And again, we're going to talk more about this in our next sync session. It's like, what are our OKRs for the year? How are we driving forward on those and keeping you updated on that progress? So a quick little way to say, like, what are your wants from the program? What would you like to see? Are we hitting the big things that make this applicable for the whole community? So this is your chance. Please fill out that survey, and I'll send you a ping or two. It's not mandatory, of course, but it's just hopefully happy to take that and greatly weighted as we go through on that. So you'll see that survey. Please take a couple moments and go through it. So with that, we have 3 big open issues that will take a while to kind of flush out. So let's take a look, and it's going to be myself, Seal, and Deep kind of talking about this. So I'd like to kick us off talking about June 8th. So what's happening on June 8th is that there is going to be a Filecoin gathering, a meetup that's taking place in Austin, Texas. For those of you that went by South by and enjoyed that 15-hour plane ride and that nice warm Texas heat, this is your chance to come back out there and have an Impossible Burger with Deep and myself. It's going to be piggybacked with the consensus conference that happens. But the big thing we're looking for is the day before, on June 7th, we are looking to have a Filecoin Plus day. And for all of you folks that were around last May, we had a Filecoin Plus day. It was online. Deep led the program, and it was really focused on generating content around explaining what the program is, kind of putting rails on the program. What we're hoping to do now with this session on June 7th is make it more of like alignment, expectations, and growth. So this would be a great opportunity if you'd like to come join us live. We'll have panels, we'll have discussions. And this is also what we're looking for as far as feedback. Can you come? Is it impossible? Would you like these sessions to be recorded? So again, Galen's posted the links there in chat. The first link that you'll see is directly to the Phil Austin event that's taking place. And the second link that you'll see come through is an Airtable survey. And this is just like a light RSVP. Can you make the wedding? How many dinners and dances should we get ready to get for you? So again, feel free to put that on there. It's just an interest survey, but really helps us scope out what information you guys may want from this. So I'll kind of pause if anybody has questions about this event or any ideas or any feedback.
I have a question. Is it, are you going to stream it live so we could join remotely?
That is a great question. I don't know about that. Deep, have you explored that live stream in the past? Is that something we could table or incorporate?
Yeah, so we were talking about this with the events team to figure out what the right mix would be. Meg, I think definitely for the portions of it that we want to be more like broadcasty and it's like somebody sharing like an update and things like that, definitely there'll be some sort of live stream element to that. I think where it gets a little bit difficult is we'd like to have a little bit of like a discussion element too. Doing that hybrid is challenging. And so a bit of an open question on that one. And so you filling out the form and saying you'd like to be there but can't physically would help us in figuring out how many people there are that we need to solve for. There is a device called an OWL, OWL, which is something we've used before, which is like a conference box or a conference call in a box type model where you have like a multi-dimensional camera and then multi-directional mics that you put in the middle of a conference room. And when we're doing many to many, we've used that pretty successfully. But I've never done a many to 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And so we'll have to figure out like what the ROI looks like for the setup.
Okay, thanks guys.
Thanks for asking that, Meg. All right. Any feedback? Please let us know. Seal, are you guys on the line? We have Andrew again.
I don't know if they're here for the afternoon session.
Yeah, I'm not seeing them. So we may just do sort of a high level summary of this. And then again, the recording for this from their morning presentation will be online and link to their specific governance issue. They've been on a couple governance calls. So this project, they're calling it Project Antarctic, should not be like totally brand new to a lot of people. We've discussed a few times, but we're now at the point where they've opened sort of a specific proposal, number 489, where they kind of spell out where they are at this current part of their sort of proof of concept idea that they are pushing forward. And so basically they are working to do 5 full replicas of a 10 petabyte data set. This is a proof of concept from a single client. They've worked with a set of notaries, which they list here, that are in a distributed region, and they're working with a distributed set of additional storage providers. And so part of this sort of difference in this proof of concept is the client wants to remain anonymous at this time, both within sort of the broader community, but then also within their own internal organization. They're not publicly broadcasting this yet, but then to our knowledge, their plan is once the proof of concept has completed, that there will be marketing and that this client is on the order of exabytes of potential data annually. And so Seal is positing that this is a very high value client to bring to the network, and that it also sort of opens up some additional new pathways for how very large enterprise level storage provider driven BD, storage provider supported BD could happen. So I encourage you guys to go read through their proposal specifically, watch their recording where they sort of summarize it. It's going to be multiple LDNs. Those LDNs are going to be, structured a little bit differently because of the notaries that will be on those LDNs. Some of the questions that have come up are around should this flow through a data cap model, or should it just be deals on the network? And they had some really great points about that. Like personally, we're of the opinion that this is a good test case to work on growing the network. That doesn't necessarily mean that this has to be the precedent for how all future programs are going to function. And again, I would challenge people that are relatively new to the Filecoin Plus program to look back at where this entire program was a year ago and how the conversations we were having around large data sets at all. So last spring, when the Filecoin Plus Day was happening, those large data sets were still relatively new in their entirety for figuring out how we were going to support that kind of data. So the program has changed a lot in that time, and I think that it's going to continue to iterate and grow with these different types of, communicated community support proofs of concept. So with that, I think if anyone has a very high level question, I could attempt to answer it, but I would also direct you, back to that issue number 489. So I'll just pause and see if there are any hands up right now. Okay, cool. So, yep, check issue 489. Put it in the chat. Add your questions, comments there. Watch the other recording. I think with that, the next is issue number 490, and I think that's deep. Yes.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Yeah.
I'm working with Joa on designing a proposal, which hopefully will be in time for the File Plus Day, around what enterprise data would look like. So it would support something like this. So expand on the boundaries of what is the File Plus program to something that covers exceptions, or actually not even exceptions, they're requirements for what an enterprise might need.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing and hearing more about that proposal.
Yeah.
Between now and
I'm
Phil Austin.
Yeah, I'm interested to know more about that because I still don't have any information about it as a notary. I don't feel like I get enough information. Yes, Alex, they come to us and talk about the things they will have something, which we don't know yet. But we'll see.
Charles, you're saying about what Meg was just talking about, or about the seal?
The seal story ones, because I see like there were lots of comments in the thread already. Some of them still, it seems like even with the notaries, most notaries still don't understand what's going on there. Like they know it's unencrypted, but they still don't know why should accept it. So I don't know.
Why the notaries should accept encrypted data, or why the notaries
and another
should
question
accept...
Another question is that if this is part of the LDN, and like actually they're not necessary to get lots of notaries approval. Just some of them approve and it's done, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know, it's worth it to have something against them, because like as long as they get 5 people there and the ball keep on rolling.
Yeah, well, and I think like that's the point of back and forth is, do we feel that the community must always have unanimous support for every decision, or do we feel that some decisions can move forward with some disagreement that is stated, and then someone can say, I said here, I can point to where I said I thought that I had this question and I wasn't really clear on this, or I didn't know that it needed to be supported. It moved through anyway. This was the result. My opinion changed. My opinion didn't change. I think that there's an advantage to saying I am willing to support this, but I'm also concerned. And then in the future you can say, all right, that worked out differently than I thought. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's worse. I think that part of this, like what they're talking about, and you can read through their issue, and they had a short presentation that you can watch, is the encrypted data set needs to be encrypted so that to protect the identity of the client per the client's request. And so that's like part of why there's like multiple things that they're sort of trying to work within the previous guidelines and shift those guidelines around, like, how have we done this in the past and how do we do it going forward? Danny, you got a hand? I'll mute.
Yeah, so I as one of the notaries who are supporting this, I'm happy to sort of answer questions on my decision. Actually, I'm really interested in seeing Meg's proposal. Looking forward to that. I wonder if, and one of the things that's strange for me is that one of the reasons I think that we approved this is that it wasn't so much an enterprise proposal as one that was involving public open data, although it's encrypted in this particular trial. So I wonder if there is a broader case that does include enterprise. Actually, to cut this to a final point, Meg, I'm super interested in why you see this as an enterprise thing. Not challenging it. I'm just interested in what the thought process was. That's a direct question to Meg, I guess.
Because we are talking to clients that are considered enterprise that have encrypted data and it's not public. And so really before this came up, we've been talking for months, even last year, about how might we serve them and how could we onboard early adopters that get Web3 that could be great beneficiaries of a data cap program, and they're legitimate. And then we posed all these questions, which are the guys are going to do massive eye roll when I bring it up. Like, why do we KYC the data if we KYC the client and they're trusted? So if it's RMIT who we've been talking to and we know that they're trusted and we know what research, we can see the research brief, why do we need to see the data? So I'm going to challenge that, and that's what will come. That'll have to be part of that enterprise or a private, whatever we want to call it. Let's find a better name for it. Data cap program that we might propose. So that's the idea. But stay tuned. I'm working with Joa firstly on the customer journey. So what does that look like today? And then what would it look like if we had different dimensions to it?
That's great. Thank you. I have like a little thing which I was going to do in my copious spare time, but I may throw it into the issue for this because I think I agree with you that there are a number of reasons why we ask for open or public distributable data. And I think it's worth teasing them out because some of them are about KYC, some of them are about encouraging a public good, right? And I don't think we necessarily, Galen and Deep know this, I've never been super on board with the idea of prohibiting encrypted data per se in the data cap process. And I think this helps clarify those things. Maybe it'll lead to some changing in the wording, but yeah, thanks.
Awesome. I think Deep, kicking it to you for 490.
Yeah, I just want to close out one thing. I still think Charles's comment was a little unaddressed because we went back to Danny talking to Meg. Charles, I think it's worth just reviewing the application because I do think they detail their sort of steps. I think the questions asked by notaries are valid, but ultimately, if they do have support of enough notaries, then that is still like fine for them to proceed. But I think if you have questions and you want them to be clear about certain things, I think it's completely up to you to continue pushing on it and reasonable for you to push on it.
Yeah,
I just
my question never changed. There's still some questions. Why do we need 10 petabyte proof of concept?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is if you sign the NDA, you'll know why you sent 10 petabytes for a proof of concept. I haven't signed the NDA. I don't know who the client is, but they've obviously been able to get some confidence from other notaries, and that's kind of
the answer that they keep giving is the client has mandated that it needs to be that the proof that the client is like, you need to prove to us that you are able to do this much data. This is the smallest proof of concept test that we will do. So in their frame of reference, it is a small proof of concept based on their total data set. And so the client is driving the size of the data set. So it's not Seal's decision.
Okay. The second question, how did they choose the storage providers?
So again, to my knowledge, Seal has done an amount of sort of reputation staking for themselves with this client to say, you can trust us, here's our data center, here's the level of SLA and uptime and et cetera that we can provide. Because then when we, the Filecoin Plus and the broader Filecoin community pushed back and said, you're not going to get this approved with data cap to just onboard it yourself. You're going to need to work with other storage providers. then Seal said, in order for us to vouch for other storage providers, we, being Seal, will need to go do that same level of investigation to determine which storage providers are we comfortable attaching our reputation to. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of Seal on this point from conversations that I've heard from them with that similar question. So they said, what other storage providers can meet our basically standards. And that was how they decided which storage providers to work with, as outlined in that issue.
Okay, so another question is, what's the timeline? Do they have a timeline?
I think that as soon as they get this approved, they want to try and get the different LDNs will be running in parallel based on how quickly each of those storage providers is sealing. It will run at the typical LDN kind of tranche system where they have the notaries on the multisig. They'll get the first allocation request on those different parallel LDNs. As that data is sealed in deals by that client address, more allocations will release. So, they want to do it as fast as possible, but it is still going to flow per kind of that typical data cap must be allocated in deals before the next allocation request comes through. So I don't have like a fine metric to say like they anticipate this being done in X number of months. I have not heard a number yet with which to like speak to any confidence.
Yeah, because usually I don't ask people about the schedule or roadmap or don't say it, but this is 10 petabytes. And the total number is 50 petabyte, and it's distributed the location between different continents. Like I'm curious about the steps and how it's going to process. I will, like, even though like this is something NDA stuff, which is I personally not so keen to it. Still, I will like perform my role as monitoring it, how it's going.
Yeah, I think it's completely reasonable. I think you should ask for the timeline. I think it's fair for you to push them to be transparent about that. I also think that this is where there's a little bit of overlap with why Meg said what she said, at least to my understanding, which is like learn from this process or like educate them about how they can do the process better, or learn like figure out the framework so we should communicate to each other how these things are happening to begin with. And so I think that's where there's a little bit of overlap in saying, okay, like what's the generic enterprise path to data cap? Are they following that? Does it look similar? Are they doing it differently? Why are they taking longer or shorter? Like how are they like circumventing the challenges that they have with a private client? And then they've also talked about how if this goes well, that client is at the 100 petabyte scale. So then what would happen after that is also an interesting question, because they're obviously going to want to onboard more data because everybody wants to onboard verified data. And so I'd be interested in seeing how these things play out. I think in the interest
this
of time,
is why I'm asking. Yeah, this is why I'm asking. If things goes well, everybody can do that. So
yeah, that would be great. I think, Charles, if you do not mind, it'd be great if you could just ask like the timeline thing and like the process.
Yeah, I will put it in the comments. Like,
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I will put it in the comments.
Yeah, I think we should move on from this as well, because we're making progress and we're more than halfway through and we still have quite a bit of things to talk about. Yeah, cool. If you don't mind with that, I'm going to take over to 490. So 490 is my sort of realization that we, through the current plan and the current rubric, we're going to end up giving out a lot more data cap than I think is probably what we should be doing to individual notaries, given where we are in terms of trust and safety in the program, the risks that we're willing to take on, and the fact that we're about to onboard like a ton more notaries. So for some historical context, I'm going to try to keep this short. But first round of notary elections was like 12 notaries with about 2 petabytes of data cap. Second round of elections was about 24 notaries with about 6 petabytes of data cap. And now we're doing the third round where we're going to have 54 notaries and 94 petabytes of data cap. And that's crazy. Like we're somewhat doubling the number of notaries and 16xing the amount of data cap going out. And I looked through the rubrics, I did a little bit of analysis, and I think the main reason is that a lot of notaries are applying for 10 petabytes, and the ones getting it are just because they've existed in the network for more than 3-4 years. So a lot of people that came in after the ICO and they have been interested in IPFS just effectively for free got to qualify for a much larger amount of data cap than I think like makes sense. So I have the main takeaway from this is I think we need to adjust how that works. For two reasons. One, I don't think it's necessarily incentive aligned, just that like you existed here for long enough, you should be given more data cap. There should be something around past participation that influences that even more. So there's a requirement for something to change in the rubric for sure. But to me, it feels unfair to adjust the rubric now and like try to come up with a fix that like results in a desired outcome. We already have 54 notaries that have been selected, and I think 54 notaries should go forward. So instead, I'm proposing a cheaper and dirtier fix, which is just cap all notaries to 1 PebiByte. So if you requested more than 1 PebiByte, and you will just get 1 PebiByte basically. And I think it adds, this has several benefits. The first is that we end up just adding 54 PebiBytes to data cap via manual notary allocations, which is still a massive increase, but it's a more reasonable increase. We end up adding 40 PebiBytes, right? And the interesting thing about it is that 95% of all the client demand today on the network is served via LDNs. And we have several notaries that have never made a manual allocation, but have successfully supported many LDNs. And we've never had a notary actually run out of 1 PebiByte data cap between election cycles. I think a couple of them are coming close, but election cycles are only going to get more consistent and predictable. And the last one was 9 months ago. And I think the next one will definitely not be 9 months from now. And so 1 PebiByte seems like a relatively safe upper bound. And so that plus the fact that the geo distribution, if you leave in the 10 PebiByte applications, resulted in just the top 2 regions receiving 87% of all the data cap. Whereas here it's a little bit more distributed, like Europe is at least getting like 8% rather than like a single digit percent, like a very low single digit percent. Plus, of course, the fact that audit tooling is still very much a work in progress. We're still learning how to handle disputes, etc. Leads me to believe this is probably like a cheap, quick and dirty fix with the commitment that we should fix the rubric before the next round of elections happens. I talked extremely quickly, so I apologize for that. I did want to get through it in a short amount of time. TLDR, cap individual notary allocations to 1 PebiByte. I think this is not going to hamper any notary. It still gives us the benefits of getting many new notaries. It will still decrease time to data cap for client applications coming into the LDN process. And it still provides enough data cap to every notary that wants to bring on a client directly rather than through the LDN process. So without introducing substantial risk to the program, we still get all the upsides of having another election process. Thoughts? Support, dissent, love to hear it. TLDR, this impacts just about 5 notaries. You can see that the number goes down from 94 to 40. So about 50 PebiBytes is lost, which means 5 notaries getting about 10 PebiBytes don't. General sentiment in the morning call was supportive. I didn't see anybody disagree. Okay, 1 water sip break before I call it. Any thumbs ups? If you're shrugging, I would appreciate hearing a shrug as well. Just say shrug if you don't care. Because for many of you, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, I see lots of
happy tiles. If you do need to digest this more and read through it, there is a write-up there. It's issue 490. You can check it out and look at it. And like I said, there is a PR if you wanted to go see sort of the more full list of all the different notaries. So I think, though, with that, in the interest of time, K-Ray, what was next on the agenda?
Yeah, we have a couple of presentations. But before we get to that, this is just one final last plug. If you'd like to mark down for participation on this call, please go to Airtable. We're still missing a few. Just a friendly plug if you want to be on this. All right, so we just covered the last large data set unification optimization. Deep, was there any kind of follow-ups to that, or is that?
Oh, I was actually going to say something to that. Just a few minutes to talk to this. It's a thing that we have started to look at as a potential change to just the way that we're structuring large data sets. If you were here with the program last year and last fall, when we rolled the LDN to this next process, sort of LDN V2, where we changed the structure to say, once an LDN passes the governance initial review, that it will then create one notary entity as a multi-sig with all of the existing 23 notaries on it and a threshold of 2. And that one notary entity would ideally be mapped to one client address. So we had a system where we went from one multi-sig to one client for tracking those LDNs and making those allocations. As we go to now more than double our notary pool, it would require just a massive amount of tech lift to deprecate all of those existing entities of notary multisigs and create about 100 new ones with all of the new notary addresses on it. It also would continue to be a problem moving forward if, anytime we needed to make a change to the notary list. So instead, we're starting to investigate what might it look like to restructure into having one multi-sig LDN that is the large data set notary, and that one LDN would then work with all of the approved clients. So we would then go to a one-to-many model where one notary plugs into all of the approved client addresses. It would require some changes around sort of how the root key holders would top up that notary's amount of available data cap that the multi-sig would have at any given time. And it would also just change some of the ways that our dashboards track kind of engagement of like what a notary entity is doing. And then it may require some tooling changes just in how notaries go in to see the allocation requests and sign them. So we don't have a placeholder yet for sort of capturing opinions or questions about this. We're still working on getting a specific issue proposal drafted up, but just wanted to flag it now and see to get kind of people to start mulling that over, because I think it is something we're going to want to roll to as we ratify this round of selected notaries. So I'll just pause for like 10 seconds to see if there are any hands or questions about that. I know it's maybe a little high level.
Sorry, Galen, I missed what the change is. What's the key change?
The key change would be we would have one single multi-sig that had all existing notaries, and that one single multi-sig would then make allocations out to all of the different approved clients instead of having one multi-sig to one client. So for example, right now, a project like Estuary has its own notary multi-sig that maps to that Estuary client. So instead, we would have one notary multi-sig that would then go there. It would be connected to the client for Estuary. It'd be connected to the client for Internet Archive. It'd be connected to all of the approved LDN clients.
Right. Rather than seeking a new one for every tranche.
Rather than creating a new multi-sig for every approved application, you would have a single multi-sig notary entity.
Great idea.
It just reduces so much overhead and tech debt. I'm strongly supportive of this. But anyway, I think we should turn it over to the client presentations. I think we've got 2.
Yes.
All right. With that, I don't know if we have anybody from TG Shopping. Are you guys on the line? And the floor is yours if so.
I think we've got Tess from Changwen Coaching, which is also the same as Livy, I think, on the slide. Gillen, oh, that's scary.
Skip to you. Tess, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Tess Ke, the co-founder. Oh, can I share my screen?
Yes.
You're all set. You can take over screen share.
Great. Does it work now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So I was supposed to do my presentation 8 hours ago, but something came up. So really appreciate that you could give me the second chance. So I will start. I'm co-founder of the Chuangwen Coaching Center. So Chuangwen Coaching Center was founded in 2013 in Shanghai, China. Basically, our services are providing professional coaching training to both institutions and also individuals. Now, with over 9 years efforts, we have 1,000 professional coaches as well as 2,000 learning salons in China. So our main businesses are the following 6 parts. Firstly is the creative space where we provide supports for our events as well as space rentals. And secondly, we also have our 5 ICF master coaches as our guest mentors, as well as 2 evolution coach founders serving as our lead mentors. And thirdly, we also provide corporate coaching services as well as corporate social responsibility for our coaching managers. And fifth, we also have our coaching expertise to provide for our clients. And lastly, we also have our core coach team to provide support for our coaching all over China. Hang on. Okay. And because our businesses are developing now, we have large amount of data to be stored. This data mainly come from the following 4 parts. Firstly is our online courses, as well as our live classes, both online and offline. And for the pictures, videos, as well as books to be used for our classes, they are also need to be stored. And also because of the COVID, actually most of our data come from our video materials. So would you like to see our video materials for a look?
We have about 2 minutes left. So if that's how you'd like to spend the 2 minutes, you can make that decision.
Yes, I think it would work. Let's have a look. So this is how our videos look like.
Tess, if you could hear us or see us, we only see your presentation in your browser. We do not see a video.
Oh, let me, okay. Okay, it doesn't matter. So basically we have about 1.4 petabyte data to be stored. And now because we used to use like AWS or Ali Cloud to store this data, but because the expenses are rather high, so now we are considering using Filecoin to store this data. And given the LDN requirements, we would like to apply for 5 petabyte to store our data. That's our needs. Okay.
Wonderful. That was great. We'll open it up if anybody has questions.
Yes, I'm open for any questions about our services or our needs.
You're looking for onboarding a bunch of the video and course material basically onto the network, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a strategy for identifying how you'll be processing and storing the data? I'm sure Meg and some others would like to hear as well.
For the data with smaller smaller storage, we might need to be stored online. For large data, we might need to be stored offline.
Okay, so you'd be like distributing hard disks to storage providers?
Yeah, yeah.
And then have you already identified your storage providers?
I think we could start from the some SPs in China, like big miners.
Nice. And do you already know which ones, or you're still looking? Is there anything the notaries can do to help with that, or no?
Yeah, I'm still looking.
Okay, so that's I don't know. I don't think there's any notaries from China on the call right now, but I'm sure there's some that will watch the recording. And so hopefully they might have some advice. You should also look at what other clients have done. All that data is available on dashboards.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, the suggestion.
Any other questions?
Does the video have copyright issue?
The store we need to the data we need to store are only public open data. So for private data, we would not use the Filecoin.
Okay.
So there will not be privacy issue.
Great job, Tess. That was a great presentation.
Thank
Penny,
you.
I know that you were on the line. If you're still here, the floor is yours, Penny.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen now?
We sure can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Penny from iMook. I'm going to introduce you our mainline business and why we need data cap for our business. So we are a company focusing on online IT education. iMook is short for Massive Open Online Course. Our app is in the front line of the recommended education app in Apple App Store. In the Apple App Store, it ranked the first in the recommended app list, greatest new app in May 2014, and has been recommended for 5 times by September 2021. So as you can see, here is some of our achievements in numbers. We have a huge number of clients, partners in online courses, the total video courses over 3,000, and technical experts and cooperation over 1,500. And here is our mainline business, mainly 3 types of courses for students of different needs. The practical courses focuses on real-time practice. It is based on problems you may encounter in workplace. Systematic courses have a frame that is more complete and covers more details, so it's a good choice for beginners. Maybe you're new in programming, but after taking this course, you are probably qualified for a programmer at some technical firm. Students after learning mainly goes into internet or artificial intelligence industries, and about 7% of them goes into BAT, which is the acronym for Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. They're all tech giants in China. So since we have many of these courses, we produce large amount of data every day. Our total amount of data is about 6 petabytes, and it's increasing about 20 terabytes each month. By now, it is stored in AliCloud and Tencent Cloud. We are now looking for a new plan that's more affordable, and some of our partners mentioned Filecoin and its capabilities, so here we are. And the data to be stored in Filecoin would be these 3 types. They are all public, and we have total ownership over them. Among all of our public data, the video courses cover about 36%, the electronic files 10%, and the component package images, private repositories, the source code, they cover about 44%. And considering the rules and requirements of Filecoin, we have about 1.8 petabytes of public data to be stored, and we need at least 3 copies. So we would like to apply for 5 petabytes as a start. And apart from the public data, actually we have a large amount of non-public data. That's because many of our video files, the video courses is not free. We charge them for students who wants to focus on programming. So in the future, I believe if you are opening the application for the data cap for non-public data, please let us know. We have a large amount of clients in China, so maybe we can do the propaganda with you together.
Penny, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much for the time and coming back.
Okay.
Give us the brief.
Okay, thanks.
And do you know, same question for you that I had for the previous presenter Tess. Do you know what your strategy is going to be to actually make the deals? Like, have you identified storage providers? Have you figured out if you'll be transferring the video files via the network or offline?
Pardon, are you asking the transmission of the data?
Yes.
Okay, we think the transmission would be both online and offline. For the smaller amount of data, like the electronic files, it can be done online. And for a larger amount, I think we can do it offline, which means we will send you a hard disk. That would be more effective.
And are you planning to store this data with SPs only in China or in different regions?
That question is beyond my knowledge. So as I'm in business department, maybe you can leave a comment on GitHub and someone will answer you.
You want to share your client application link in the chat by any chance? Or Kere, if you have that handy? By any chance, I'm not sure.
Don't have it. Penny, you could probably beat me to get in your application faster than I could find it. So if you want to, we'll be happy to put it in this record.
Okay, someone will be in charge of that. I will tell them. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Sweet. Well, with 2 minutes left, we might have some open time. So if there was any big thoughts or any kind of discussion, we have plenty of open time to discuss it. Anything on anybody's mind?
I got a question for you, Gary.
What's up, buddy?
So the channel that we opened up for application review, is that a thing? Are we planning to push the notaries into that? Have they already been pushed into that? I was just curious if things have been moving on that front and what the reception has been like.
Yeah, it's a good flag. We haven't pushed anybody over that. What I was doing is I was going to save that for notary onboarding and then make that part of the process rather than just dumping 52 people in a room without any kind of rules or heads up on it. So if anybody else was curious about it, it is coming. We have a lot of applicants who are already there and they're chomping at the bit to get you, but we'll just kind of play lifeguard until we have it all set up.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Please look at the open issues in the repo, people. Give us your thoughts. Oh, Meg, question for you if you're still around. Whenever you feel ready, it would be great to have some sort of like slot in the governance call at one of the upcoming sessions where you can run the show a little bit and talk us through what you're thinking, and between you and Joao, what the latest is. And then I think there's going to be people in here that are going to want to work with you. So once you lay down the scaffold, that might be the time where we get to test out our first sort of working group. We can have like the Enterprise Fil Plus working group and have you sort of run that and have a couple of people here engaged in helping you solve some of those problems once you've figured out the framework you want to use and maybe the model. I think people in this community have committed in the past to being supportive of that. And so we'd love to facilitate that in whatever way you think would be most helpful for you.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. I reckon, where are we? It's probably not the next governance call. It's the one after, where we'll have a draft and we can start to socialize it and then have the real conversation at your File Plus Day.
Like, fantastic. Thank you so much. I think we're at time. Good to see everybody. Hey, Gary, I see you popped your video on. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
Great sync, guys. I'll see you guys in Slack. Cheers.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.